All right, let's continue our focus on the U.S. presidential election. Well, not elections, they're done. It's now President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration ceremony. It's happening today, and what his presidency will mean for the world. We're joined in studio by Professor John Stremlau. He's from the Department of International Relations at Wits University. Prof, thanks so much for talking to us. Welcome to the studio.
Good morning.
All right, so we saw, we have a look at, let's just quickly talk about Barack Obama, because we're seeing him now leaving office. Is it too soon to talk about a legacy? How do you think he's performed as president?
Well, I think he's performed very, very well under very difficult circumstances. Remember, the people who brought Trump to power never cooperated with Obama, and Obama was much more willing to cooperate with the Republicans than Trump seems to be with the Democrats. He's got no Democrats in his cabinet. Obama, I think, really brought the country, or tried to bring the country together, and is leaving office with popularity above 60%, while Trump is coming in below 40%. So Trump is the most unpopular president-elect in modern history.
Wow. So he is, as it stands right now, most unpopular. I mean, and as you say, President Barack Obama is leaving on a high. I mean, he's never, ever been this popular. But are we being... is the world being overcautious of a Trump presidency? I mean, are we expecting the worst and perhaps then maybe get better?
Well, I think it's always prudent to expect the worst. And in this case, since we don't know anything about Trump as a person in government, he's never served in the military, never served in government. He's a completely unknown commodity to us. And the presidency is a completely unknown experience to him. He's only been a businessman interested in money and his own grandiosity. And so consequently, there are a lot of uncertainties. And I think it's best for countries like South Africa to look to themselves and figure out how they can be as resilient as possible. I think the one lesson that South Africans might take from the American election is that at least here there's a small enough relationship between local government and the national government that when you have your elections in August, you can make that kind of a signal to what the nation is going to go for in terms of its national elections. When the U.S. has its local elections, they're local. And for most people in the country, Washington's very far away. Yeah. So one man, Trump, can't bring the country together. Obama, because he's such a diplomat and such a thoughtful and decent man, was able to at least give that aura that there is more of a nation there than maybe the nation is right now. It's just too big and it's too divided.
Yeah. You know, when you hear his whole campaign, it's all about making America great again. And you alluded to it while we were just chatting a little bit off air. It's almost like a way of taking America back instead of all the strides that have been made forward to move the world into a different place where we are right now. I mean, is this what the world should be doing?
Well, Trump is the first tribalist that has become president of the United States, and it's the white tribe that is now seeing itself as, gee, we're not the majority anymore. It's becoming that way. His constituency in the Rust Belt were overwhelmingly white, non-college educated workers who have been displaced by globalization and by robotics. And so there was a disgruntledness there. They want America back. But America is going to be a majority-minority country of Asians and African Americans and Latins by the middle of the century. America's not going back. Robotics are not going away. Globalization is not going away. So Trump, in a way, is a kind of a last gasp of the old dominant ethnic group, which was white males. Yeah. And it got him elected, but is it going to allow him to govern? That's the big question, because the demonstrations are evident all over the place that your correspondent was alluding to.
Yeah. What does this mean for us? I mean, you take a continent like Africa, it almost stands against what Trump is for. How will that work on relations between us and them?
You're very right. It is not a continent that he would feel congenial in, and he's shown no interest in it. His team sent people over to the State Department and the Pentagon last week with a 4-page list of questions, and the questions, I've only seen reporting about the questions, seem to suggest that he thinks aid has been squandered, that Africa's not worth any kind of attention or involvement unless there's some terrorist threat that he has to do something about. So I think maybe, and that may be not so bad a thing given how Trump behaves, Africa is largely going to be ignored. That puts the pressure on a country like South Africa, which has shown leadership in Africa, to say to the rest of the African Union members, it's time to pull ourselves together and think about our role in a world where America is no longer the dominant voice and power. Forget America for a while. Let's think about ourselves. Let's think about our relations with the rest of the developing world and the rest of the world, China.
You know, we all talk about this Trump presidency, and we heard Barack Obama during his, I think it was one of his final press conferences, talking about the fact that don't worry, you know, it's not, the country's not run by one man, and he's got a lot of advisors, and he's got a whole office of people that are running this country, and you know, you're not going to see fundamental changes. Can we believe that? Or I mean, if you've got a guy like Trump, he's got his ideas, he knows what he wants. Is he going to be the all power that we think he's going to be?
Well, the paradox is that the president is much more powerful in foreign affairs than in domestic affairs, because domestic affairs he's got to get budgets through Congress, and foreign affairs is a lot smaller as a budget issue, and it's also where the president has a lot more authority delegated to him under the Constitution, which didn't anticipate a globalized world. So Trump knows very little about foreign policy that I know of. He knows how to build hotels and gambling casinos and run beauty pageants. But how is he going to deal with the complexities of foreign policy? He certainly has no sensitivity to be a diplomat. That's obvious. So that is the big unknown question. And again, it may be an advantage to Africa if he doesn't pay much attention to this part of the world for a while, so long as we use the time to good advantage to get our own act together here.
Yeah. All right. So we're hoping that it's the first time ever we've heard that. We're hoping to be ignored by the U.S. President and hoping he doesn't notice us.
This one.
Just particularly this one. We have a look at Donald Trump's Twitter account. Now, any presidential person, any person knows that, I mean, you really shouldn't be speaking about television shows and beauty pageants and things like that on your Twitter feed as a president-elect. I mean, do you think that he's going to be as vocal and as outspoken when he takes office?
Well, that's a very good question, because that's what we were saying after the campaign when he was elected. And in his first speech of acceptance, he was sort of saying, let's bring the country together. Then he reverted exactly to the kind of tweeting against John Lewis, the civil rights icon, against Meryl Streep, the actress, that is absurd, absolutely absurd for a president-elect who is supposed to, by historic precedent, bring the country together. He's made it further divided. So is he going to be any better once he gives his speech later today? I'll be surprised, but let's wait and see, except that his performance during the transition gives no reassurance whatsoever. No reassurance.
This is certainly going to be interesting times. It really is. Well, this evening, 7 o'clock, our time, that's Central African time, you're going to see Donald Trump sworn in as the 45th President of the United States of America. John Stremlau, I know what you're watching this evening.
Yes, I'll be back here.
Okay. Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that. All right, there you go. 5 minutes before 7 o'clock here on the program. Tieto, are we coming to you? Yeah, we can't. We're not. No, there's not enough time. So what I'm going to do instead is ask people to tweet about how they feel about this U.S. presidency.
Yes.
Donald Trump coming in, you do know 7 o'clock. That's what's going to be happening our time. How are you feeling about this Trump presidency? Are you optimistic, or are you really, really worried? Love to hear from you at Morning Live SABC. That's where you can tweet us.